Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel Volunteers. We need you. This is our first Making Groundwater Visible, an event from the Groundwater Project, and I'm your host, Everton de Oliveira. Thank you so much for joining us. Please upload your picture watching the event and tag it at the Groundwater to be featured on our social media pages. We count on you. Like and share our posts. Volunteer to help translate books into your mother tongue. Make a difference. Let's make the groundwater visible. But before we start, I would like to thank our sponsors for making this event possible and free for all of you. TDS, Technical Development Solutions from Saudi Arabia. Hydroplan, a consulting company from Brazil. G360, from the University of Guelph in Canada, Solinst Equipments from Canada, and Waterloo Barrier also from Canada. And also to all the individual donors. Without them, this noble endeavor would not be possible. Please join them. Donate if you are an individual, or add the name of your company as a sponsor to a Game Changer initiative. Well, Winston Churchill once said, "You make a living by what you get, and you make a life by what you give." Volunteerism is so important for our lives, and yet we just don't think of it because we are so concentrated in making a living. A noble and so important initiative like the Groundwater Project only exists because a huge number of good people took action and volunteered to make it go. You may volunteer yourself to make groundwater visible. Reasons abound. To make a difference by helping others. To connect with your community and feel involved. To contribute to a good cause that you care about. To develop new skills or build on existing experience and knowledge. To meet new people and feel better about yourself. It's good to your mind and to your body. You may volunteer your time and personal skills or your money should you don't have time for it, or both. The important thing is to feel that you belong. Thank you very much. Today we have here with us two volunteers to discuss this groundwater and guests to discuss volunteerism. We have here Ying van Reinfelder from Rutgers University in Canada. And we have Leanne Austrins from Down in the United States. Welcome, both of you. It's a pleasure having you here, please. I would love you to make a brief introduction about yourself. Ian first, please.
Hi, everyone. I am a professor at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, not Canada. One correction. This is in the US. It's a university in New Jersey. I'm a professor in Earth Planetary Science, and I'm volunteering because I believe that volunteerism is a hallmark of civilization. That we have enough for ourselves, and we can give, and we can do things that are right without being paid. And I think this is a wonderful project, and I'm happy to be one of the volunteers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jesus, I just read Nova Scotia and it's New Jersey. Sorry about that. Okay. And it would be wrong anyways, right, Leanne?
From the tip of South America, you look north, there are just one big continent. It's all big blurs.
Oh, come on, Leanne is Canadian. She wouldn't take that easily.
I was going to say, I don't recognize that university as a Canadian university. And student Everton, neither should you.
Okay, please, Leanne, introduction.
Yes, I'm Leanne Austrins. I currently work for Dow and live in the US. I am a Canadian. I have had a career that started with undergraduate and master's at the University of Waterloo and moved into the consulting field. And from consulting, I moved fairly recently into industry. And I am also the parent of 4 children, and that is actually what got me into volunteering. Was the the question that my daughter asked of me when she was about 12 years old of whether or not a fundraising that she wanted to do, whether my work would be interested in helping. And so I thought about that and thought, why would my work not be interested in helping, and how could that work? So that was how I got into volunteering.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll talk about that. I know your experience is quite exciting. Thank you. So thank you for your introduction, and excuse me for my mistake there. Please, Ying, you first make a short presentation for us, please.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen first, right? And so this is, how do I do that, share screen? Okay. Okay, and all right, so I'm going to briefly talk about who I am, how I became involved in this project, and what I have contributed, what I'm working on right now, and looking ahead. So who I am, I'm a professor at Rutgers University in the Department of Earth Planetary Sciences, and I teach hydrology, hydrogeology, and groundwater modeling. And my interest, research interest, is really the global water, energy, biogeochemical cycles in deep time and the deep future, deep past, deep future. And anything happens on Earth, if it's small, if it doesn't impact the planetary process or the long-term trajectory, it doesn't concern me very much. So I'm really looking at a very large scale, looking at long-time trajectory. That's who I am. And how did I get involved? About 2 years ago, John Cherry sent me an email and telling me about this project and asking me if there's any way I can contribute. So I sent him a recorded lecture I gave in Saskatchewan, and then he said, okay, Eileen just started working on the water cycle, global water cycle book, and work on that. So that's how I met Warren and Douglas. And then the result is this global groundwater in our water cycle. And my role is really to make sure that we convey this message that groundwater anchors the terrestrial fluxes. It's not just groundwater for humans, for contaminant transport. It is groundwater is also surface water, because our rivers are fed by ground. Most of them are fed by groundwater. Rivers don't run dry because groundwater is seeping into them. And our lakes, it's also lake water. It's also plant water. Groundwater is really underneath everything we see in the surface. Groundwater is invisible, but it's really playing an anchoring role there. And then what I'm working on right now, and following the same spirit of interconnectedness, I'm working on with those colleagues on a new book called Groundwater in Hill Slope and Catchment Processes. Catchment science is very integrative. It has physics, chemistry, biology, geomorphology. It has surface water, it has groundwater. So it's very integrative, and the groundwater is essential in understanding hill slope and catchment. And so this is the book we're working on, and particularly I really would like to help put the catchment science, the little catchment, in this very large geological perspective. And some catchments will lose groundwater, some catchments will gain groundwater. So again, the spirit here is to look for connectedness, integrative nature of groundwater. So that is the second project we're working on. Hopefully this book will come out this year. And then the next one is the groundwater supported ecosystems that I'm really helping Marco and Antonin to co-lead this book. Aquatic systems that's supported by groundwater, wetland systems and upland systems. So there are 2 books in the working, and stay tuned. And lastly, looking ahead, when I heard about this project and started the conversation with John Cherry, I thought it was just an amazing, a lofty and a noble, unselfish project to share knowledge, to make knowledge freely available to everyone, and depending on volunteers to write these books. And so I often compare that with the Khan Academy, which is wildly successful, that brought basic science, art, music, and even coding now into this free internet. It's impacting millions of people. And I think the Groundwater Project is just like that, but focusing on the subject and has direct impact on how we're going to nurture the next generation so they are scientifically literate because they are the guardians of our planet, our resources. It's a monumental task, and we need to engage mid-career authors to keep the continuity, because this project is theirs to keep it going. But this is a project that I am so proud to be part of it. And I think it's just timely, it's historic, it ushers in a new era of learning. And the future of the Groundwater Project is very, very bright. And that's what I have to say.
All right, thank you, Leanne. Leanne, it's your turn now, please.
All right. So I'm just going to share a few slides to help describe my journey. Is my screen sharing properly?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. My journey for volunteering has been driven primarily by my children. My oldest two children were born in Vietnam and adopted at a very young age. And that brought a love of Vietnam and a respect for its country into our family. And as Everton was saying earlier, a lot of these volunteer opportunities that come to you come because of relationships, because of personal connections that you make through something that is seemingly innocuous. For my case, we started off by wanting to have a grounding for our children in the culture of Vietnam, and for them to be able to have peers that were from a similar situation, adoptive families that would understand and be able to be partners for them in their journey. So we decided to go to a thing called Culture Camp, which was organized by a woman named Caroline Wind Carl Parker, and she had two adopted children herself and was a refugee from the Vietnam War who lived in the United States. And she put on a camp for adoptive families to come together so that the children could meet each other, interact, and the families can experience Vietnamese culture. One of the things that she did after she adopted her daughters was look into why were children needed to be adopted in Vietnam. And primarily the reason was poverty. And so knowing that it is the best for children to try and remain in their country and their culture wherever possible, she decided that she wanted to do something about the poverty situation that was driving children to be separated from their families, and went back and did a little bit of volunteering at the orphanages, and then reached out to a specific minority community to see whether or not there were opportunities to elevate the communities and change their situation. She had some excellent results. And because in the United States, she had this grouping of families that would come together that all had a connection to Vietnam, she introduced these results to the families and asked for some help and some sponsorship, and it really took off. And she has been able to accomplish great things. So we have been volunteering with Catalyst Foundation. And what that looks like right now, and the first time that we volunteered was after my daughter wanted to raise money for some bikes. The community she was helping at the time lived on a dump. And the reward for children doing a good job in school, and she had to make a deal with these communities because the children all work. In Vietnam, it's legal for a child to work starting at the age of 3, selling lottery tickets. So she saw that, as we know, education is the way out of poverty. And to get the children to be able to go to school, she made a deal with the families that the children would attend school and Catalyst would provide them with food and supplies for their home more than equivalent to what they would have been doing if they had been working with their parents in the dump. And then as a reward for good grades at school, the kids had bikes. So they could bike from the dump to the school that Catalyst Foundation had built. So my daughter decided she'd like to raise some money to see if she could raise enough money for a bike. So she approached her class at school. I think she was 12 at the time. And they were excited about this. I said, well, that's a great idea. Whatever you can raise in your classroom, I will match. And so we went on like that. And she said, well, that's great that you're going to match, Mom, but what about your work? Can your work help us as well, or get involved? And so I brought it to the people at my work at the time, and they were quite interested in participating and helping. So they did some donations. We did a Vietnamese lunch where people brought donations. And then the company that I worked for actually matched everything that she had made as well. So in the end, she was able to have 50 bikes that went to these children. And then the group that I was working with, we decided we would sponsor some children, 10 children through Project Backpack, which meant paying the school fees and uniform and everything that they need to go to school for a year. So she moved to a different community. Her first community did very well, went on to another community to help. And we thought it's time to go back to Vietnam ourselves with our children and let them see the culture. And one of the things that we did was go to where Caroline was working with Catalyst Foundation. And it was the first time for this community that she was starting up with a new community. So this was the community. It's called the Regalai. They are a small mountain hill tribe in central Vietnam. They used to live up in the mountains, and after the war, they were told that they could no longer have that piece of land. They were brought down to the flatlands and said, you can have this piece of property, but there was no water, there was no sanitation. There was no way for them to sustain themselves and have a living because everything that they were used to, they no longer had access to. They also are from a very small people group in Vietnam, and there is discrimination against them, against the majority tribes. So this is just a few pictures of the community that we were working with. On the first time that we went, we've been several times to volunteer with this community. This was actually the first time these children had ever seen somebody that was not from their tribe or from the immediate surrounding neighborhood. They did not know what to think about white people. They were pretty amazed by us. They also didn't quite know what to make of my children, who looked Vietnamese but did not know how to speak Vietnamese. A lot of them couldn't speak Vietnamese. They had their own language, which further created the barriers for them in Vietnam and trying to progress. So we worked on what's called an aid expedition, where there was health checks. So all of the community was brought through and got a medical history for the first time, had immunizations. So the doctors and the support came from the US as well. The young man actually in the blue checked shirt is a doctor, but he started off, again, with connections. He was a counselor as a university student at the culture camp, and volunteered to do that when he was a young man. My kids had known him for a number of years. He graduated university with a medical degree and now was coming back to help in Vietnam. There was a dentist that came with us as well, did dental checks. They were not best pleased about this. The whole idea of a toothbrush was a very new thing. This is a picture that has Caroline in the middle, and my two children are on the outside edge, and my nephew came with us as well in the red hat. So the three of them were 13 at the time that they did this, and another young girl from the US also came along. So age is not a consideration. It's like Everton said, it's the heart and the energy and the intensity that goes into it, not having limitations. Because education was so important, the first thing that we did was transform a school. The government gave Catalyst Foundation a school building to use. but it was in a little bit of disarray. So you can see the kitchen that we arrived to and the kitchen that was there when we finished our work. These were the outside of the buildings, getting a bit of a paint job. And my work actually came along for this as well. So two people that I work with decided that they thought this was a good idea as well. And they took vacation time and came to Vietnam to do some labor here. So this was one of my coworkers and a couple other co-workers getting the schoolrooms ready. And by the end of the week, this is what the schoolrooms look like. There were classes, desks, teachers, everything was set up and kids could actually start to learn. They all got lunch every day as well. So this is a function at the school. They'll provide the lunch every day so the kids have a meal. Every day I would see children take the lunch that was given to them in a box. They would eat half of it and they would take the rest home to share with their parents. They weren't told to do this. This was just what they did. Water was a big issue for this community. And again, I didn't get into this volunteering because I was a hydrogeologist. It just so happened that this was a need that the community had. So Caroline asked me to go for a bit of a walk and check out the water situation because she knew that that was my job. And so there was an old reservoir, but the connection pipes from the reservoir had been cut at some point in time. And the community was actually walking back up into the hills. It took about 4 hours each way to walk to get their water. So we investigated and were able to run some piping from the spring in the hills back down to the reservoir. And then another series of pipes that would bring water to the homes or the home areas of where people were living. But there was no filtration. And there was no way for folks to continue to have a sustainable income. So at the time I was doing a research project with the University of Western Ontario and had met some professors from there. One was a groundwater professor and he had a project for students once a year where they had to design a filtration system in one of his classes. So I said, what if your students designed the filtration system that's needed for the regoli? So he put it together and that was their project. And the best project from that year actually became the design for a filtration system for the community. Another project was in a new area at Western where they were looking at sustainable engineering. So these students looked at what are the resources that are local, what are the needs that the community has, and came up with some ideas for sustainable income. There was a connection again with the groundwater in that we needed a carbon source for filtration. There is a lot of coconuts, so they came up with a really intelligent idea of investment in a kiln that they could then create coconut carbon and use that both for their own water filtration needs and to sell locally. And coconuts are also something that they could grow with a very low water supply. So it reached out into academia, it reached out into industry, and has been quite an incredible experience for our whole family.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Quite interesting. We've seen here two different kinds of volunteerism. One, Leanne, and if you take a close look to the talks and look on the general aspect, both of them started volunteering with the tools that were close to them. So Ying started working in volunteering because she has a knowledge and she can produce books and write material, and investing her time to give education to people she doesn't know, just giving away for the good of humankind, basically. And Leanne is the same thing. She started doing something because she had the kids from Vietnam and the culture get closer to her with that relationship. And then she started thinking on how to help people. So volunteerism, we have that mentioned in another presentation that we have in our sessions here, comes from ourselves. You just start, you don't depend on government, you don't depend on anything. You just have to do it. Just go and do it. If you wait, it's not going to happen. So when you have a chance, try and volunteer because it does help. Well, thank you both for your talk. Now it's your turn. I'm going to push you here and there and see if we can have fun in our conversation. So you didn't know each other, and both of you have nice experiences. Leanne has this wonderful experience. I remember when you were mentioning that you were going to adopt the children from Vietnam. Jesus, Leanne is crazy. I still think you are. Though I haven't changed my mind. But you're doing quite well. You're doing quite well. I'm always impressed. And Ying, I recommend you guys to go when we release the book. The first book that she mentioned, Groundwater in Our Water Cycle. We had an interview, she participated, and she has a very, very impressive participation. And that's why she's here today. Well, and of course, because of her career, right? So first question is, what basically, when you thought about, or maybe you didn't, when you thought about becoming a volunteer, how did that happen? Or came by chance? Is that a moment that you think about becoming a volunteer, or it just happened?
For me, it was a push from a 12-year-old who was exercising a sense of community responsibility that I thought I really need to step up and be a leader for this child because she is definitely leading me.
Good. Ying, how you decided to do something working for free, basically, right? That's what volunteerism is.
Yeah, and as a professor, students always struggled, which brought to my attention with affording textbooks. University, college level textbooks are prohibitively expensive. And a lot of students have to work to help their parents pay tuition. And $150 textbook is just, I think it's just wrong. And so that had always bothered me. And so I have always just taken materials and then make my own textbook. And then I started teaching 20 years ago. I would make up the material and I type it up, figures, and then give students to read instead of asking them to buy those expensive books. And so when John and when the Groundwater, the cherry, the freeze and cherry book came out as free, it was a book that was out of print, and so they decided to have a second print. But they also made it free as a PDF so people could download. And that just struck me as the right thing to do. It's just wrong that we pay so much for knowledge that's so important. And it's a inequality issue in a way. You cannot go to college, you can't afford college, and then you can't afford this. And if you are born in a poor country, you don't have access to English books in a wealthy country, and you are discriminated basically. And I think it's just a very, very unfair system. Education is a basic human right. Everybody should have access to knowledge, independent of where you come from, how much money you have, and that's the only way for humanity to go forward. And so when John approached me, that they're going to actually update the 1979, we call it Bible of Groundwater. They're going to update it, not to print and then, claim loyalty from book selling, but they want to make that knowledge open and free to anyone to download. And I thought that was just the idea. And that's why I said it's timely, it's historic. We're starting to do that. You know, there's the Khan Academy. I mentioned there's a Wikipedia. Wikipedia I depend on so much, you know, and I contribute, but this is the future. So I immediately jumped on. I said, this is the future. This is the idea. And I often say that knowledge should be free, and then the free knowledge should be the best knowledge. Especially today, there's so much junk on the internet. There's so much disinformation, misinformation, and yet the most tested, fundamental scientific knowledge is not available. And I think that's just this contrast of all the junk out there and what's useful is not out there. And I think this is something we really need to work on. So I immediately jumped on the project. And so, you know, it's coming along. I didn't think about it because, it's just something that had been bothering me for so long. And knowing the Khan Academy, how successful, how they have changed hundreds of millions of people's lives. Children from any country can log in, can study art history, can study music. And I think it's just a noble idea to put knowledge out there for everyone to reach. So I didn't think about it. I jumped right on. It's just a natural thing to do.
Oh, very good. We're glad you've done. We're glad you've done because you're working on 2 other books. That's amazing. Leanne, how did you get to know the Groundwater Project? By me or through me?
By you. Connections that have lasted more than 20 years, and I think we were out for dinner in Brazil, and you mentioned it, and it was a very exciting opportunity.
Yes, yeah.
I have to say that Everton is doing so much, you know, talking about volunteerism. You're the one who is doing so much, the entire marketing, getting the book on the website. And it's just, you know, you are the operator, you know, you are the one who runs the show. And so we should interview you and talk about how did you get involved? How can you find time, so much time to devote to this project? And so this is all volunteer. We don't get paid for doing this. We all have a million things to do. Yeah, right. And how did you get in? That's my question.
I can answer, no problem. I got in because I always have done some volunteer work because I taught at university here for 21 years, and that was all volunteer work. I never
teaching when you were 12?
Excuse me?
Did you start teaching when you were 12?
Come on, you're so kind. Come on. Don't push it.
It's hard to imagine you've been teaching for 20 years, you know.
I taught for 21 years at university, and I was as a volunteer. I never had any salary. Yeah, and then because I had my company, and I run the company, so I was teaching, and I love teaching. I love, you know, working with students. That's something that I always enjoy. And I was doing lots of experiments with internet, on teaching with internet. I loved the idea when the YouTube started. The best things that I've seen on YouTube are, you know, those instructions. You go there, you don't know how to fix something, and you go there and someone is telling you how to do it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Perfect. This is perfect for teaching. You go there, right? And you mentioned Khan Academy. I saw it from the start. So I tried to copy that at the very beginning. So I had some short classes on like instead of 30 minutes classes, I had them in 5 minutes.
5-minute video, yeah.
Video. So, but at that time, I have to thank my partners because they trust me in expending money for something that they were not sure it was going to work, right? So we put these videos and we hired someone. So we want to make something that looks real. So we hired someone that could make the videos very professional. So he stayed in our company for a year to produce these classes. And when we released the book, and the course was 50 classes for master's and PhD level.
Oh, wow.
And amazingly, we had more than 500,000 views on those videos. Jesus, how people are watching, you know, PhD, you know, high level courses.
Yeah, yeah.
Goes far.
Yeah.
So, okay, another time I was teaching, I was going every year teaching for 2 weeks in Waterloo, because I had all these videos and all these tricks. And I was talking all this to John and to Jim Barker. And later on, and I was doing some online courses as well. Always like to work with the internet. John called me and said, Everton, I have this book. Would you be interested in translating a chapter into Portuguese? And then I said, John, I'm distributing here some books that I wrote, you know, a very, you know, a known person in Brazil. I'm distributing and I make some success with my material. Distributing yours is just what I need because, you know, you're John Cherry. Of course I can do that. I'm distributing Everton's work. Nobody knows who's this guy in Brazil. Distributing John Cherry is fine. Okay, I'll take it. I said, but I'll give you a surprise. And since I had this, at that time I had a mailing list of 150,000 names, you know, working because I've been running congresses and things for so long, you know, 30 years. So I have this contacts. It's okay. So I put a message, an invitation, have your name on a classic. And the next day I had like 500 volunteers to help translate. So I'm an entrepreneur. So I organized the people to work together. In 2.5 months, we had the book translated, the whole thing. And
so you're the entrepreneur behind all this.
Exactly. That's what I can do. I'm an entrepreneur. Hydrogeology is just the background. What I do best is being an entrepreneur.
Oh, that is amazing.
We can do. And then I said, well, and then we distributed the book, you know, here. And we had, I don't know, close to 50,000 downloads. We stretched it through a year. It worked very well. And then I said, John said, come on, Everton. I'm being 5 years trying to make this work. And then you, in 3 months, you show me the way. Can we work together? I said, well, why not? Let's go. And that's how it happened. And they said, okay, but then we have to, and that's one thing that I'm pushing hard now, is the translations. Because translations, we can have volunteers all over the world.
Right.
And language is a big barrier for
yes.
Work. I know because I had to study English, right? I still have to study English because my English is
English is perfect.
So, and when I was in my undergrad, it was terrible because I had to read books in English. And it was the kind of thing, you had 2 copies at the library, you know, for 100 students. And then you have to fight for a copy. And it was in English, it was terrible. It took it so long to learn. And if you have it in your own language, it's, you know, you can widen the distribution. Lots of people do. So that's how I jumped in.
I really applaud what you have done. I did not know. So you are actually a big part of the inspiration, the platform, and the translation, and make it accessible, and not to mention all the marketing behind. You're a pro. You know how to market to get people. I also want to.
No, not me. The ladies that are behind us here recording.
They do the legwork.
There are brains.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I also have to say what Leanne has done is just amazing because it makes a real impact in people's life, direct impact in so many children's life and their children and their village and their community. You know, what we do here as professors, we're just like, you know, on 30,000 feet level, looking down on Earth. I was saying I'm only interested in large scale processes and Earth history and Earth future, the planetary scale. And I really want to dial that back because hearing what Leanne has done, you know, put some real faces on the things we do, on the work we do, and you know, I just have to take my hat off to Leanne. And Everton too, you know, the entrepreneurial role you have played here. I think it's an essential piece for the success of the Groundwater Project. So far, we have so many books out, and I think you are to be thanked in really making that happen.
Well, thank you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not too important. All of you are the ones who are doing the work. You know, this is. You know, I wouldn't distribute anything if weren't people like you producing material and giving your time and your, you know, your.
Yeah, but we need a leader who tell us this needs to be done, and we need a leader to tell the users out there this is now available, right? You know, and that role we can't play. That takes a special talent.
Well, thank you very much. You're very kind.
It's great to have a dream, but if you can't put that dream into practical sense, then it just remains your dream. So
yeah,
taking a dream and making it real, which is fantastic. And what I'm looking forward to is where all of our intersections are. So I helped children be able to go to school. Now those children have an aspiration, they can move forward. They'll be able to access information that Everton, you helped put on the internet, that Ying, that you have created ways for them to have textbooks at a lower cost to give them a better opportunity to go further in their education. So I love the overlay.
Yeah, I agree with you, Leanne. I remember you just mentioned in your presentation that people have problems with water. And one of the things that I already talked to John, and it's further down on our priorities because we still have to produce the books first, but we have to create some manuals for like producing, you know, cheap wells, how to install cheap wells. So that's why we had some guys, you know, the Ryan and the other guys mentioning. Why? Because it's not just digging a hole. It's not exactly like that. Could be, but it's not exactly. We know that you have to think on quality water. If the well is well built, you know, there are techniques that we can offer, and some of them are quite affordable for people with just labor work, right? So our idea is to produce material and maybe YouTube videos on how to build things and get the proper construction of wells for people. Groundwater has this ability of being close to the user. Not always the quality allows, but it might be close to the user because the well it's usually closer. So our intention is to get information so people, and this is something that since you have experience, Leanne has experience, and you also too. There's a step further that it's not easy to grab, and I asked that to the people in the other session and for you too. How to reach people that are not hydrogeologists, because if you talk to hydrogeologists or hydrogeologists wannabe, we're still in a very short, you know, group. We can reach thousands of people on the internet, but we're talking about, you know, among ourselves. It's still a small reach. How can we get our information into a wider audience? Make groundwater really visible. That's the idea of our event. That's the name of the event. So would you have any suggestions on how to go to that? Brainstorm is welcome.
I think you're starting at the right spot. Everything these days on passing information is about social media. making the correct social media contacts, having that kind of visibility through social media, that's where connections seem to come and information seems to flow both correctly and incorrectly.
Yep. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, I don't use social media myself, and I'm just too old for that new stuff. I belong to the older generation. But the YouTube videos, I think it's really, really powerful. I'm a gardener. I just learned how to prune a peach tree by watching YouTube videos. There are so many things we can do. For example, we could produce the impactful videos, like how to do things. Like Leanne's talking about those filters, the villagers using coconut and to produce charcoal as filter material. You can build your own filtration system in a way. And can we produce videos how to do that? So it's not just groundwater, it's also surface water, right? A villager can make its own homemade filtration system and get lake water. And so videos like that, or how to drill a well. You're talking about, Everton, how to drill wells, how to lay down a well, how to put in the pump, how to even build your own pump, And so I think there's a lot of practical knowledge that need to be out there, and that can reach a much, much broader audience. People will Google how to do this, and then the Groundwater Project video comes up. This is how you do this. This is how you drill well, hand dug well, lay bricks, and how, there's a lot of practical things we can do, I think, if we want to reach, especially people in not so well developed nations. Bangladesh has so much flooding problem. Yes. What can we do? What can we hydrogeologists do?
Well, there is I've been trying to talk to people at the Groundwater Project, because since I've been involved with the internet for quite a while. One of the things that is not easy to grasp is that internet can be used by tapping on people's intelligence and brain power. And if we think that because we are professors, all of us working on the Groundwater Project, most of us are professors, I think most 100% about that. We tend to give information, and we're not really keen on taking information from the others. And on the internet we can get, and that's why if you are watching us, want to volunteer, is welcome. It's not only us producing video. You can produce a video showing something, it's very short, and we're very interested in delivering this material to anyone. Of course, we have a screening process for something that we understand works perfectly, because we have the techniques. So the video has to be a good video, but based on proper technology or technique. Has to be a high-tech stuff. So the idea is to get volunteers to offer their knowledge, and people, some of the knowledge to use groundwater are knowledge that come from ancient people. They've been passing along that information, and you have different uses, and some of the uses are similar in places far away that they didn't have connection on our cultures, but the physics of the water is the same all over the place. So when people start thinking, they tend to produce similar technologies. So our idea is to, well, do you have something that you think it's useful for someone? That's okay, we'll take it. Our idea is not only to have people distributing what we produce, is to have people producing things. That's my understanding. So we're still building, because for that we need volunteerism, but we need money, because we have to build the structure to manage this huge volume of information. Otherwise, we cannot deliver. So we will need some time. So now we have some steps to do. As I told you, I'm an entrepreneur. I think on planning stuff, right? So we go from there, and then we'll have people participating. What do you think? Idea is good. A dream is always good, right, Leanne? We have to
Absolutely. You've got to start with the dream.
Yes, yes. Well, once someone told me that a dream is something, by definition, is unattainable, is a dream. You have to make a plan for your dream. Otherwise, it'll never become reality. So you make a plan and then you go step by step. Maybe your dream come true someday.
You taught me long ago, Everton, the 1-year plan, the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan.
You know me well. You know me well.
Yes.
Right.
That's the way to go.
Yes, yes.
You don't set a goal, you'll never get there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Girls, you're doing a great job helping us. And our talk is so fun. But our time is up here. And I'll ask you to make a final statement for us, please. Who's first? Ying, you first. Or Leanne, whoever.
I can start. I think I would say, look outside yourself. See what you're passionate about. Maybe you're passionate about translating. Maybe you're passionate about writing. Maybe you're passionate about people. But find that way that you can make a difference and chase after it. Look for people who can help you. Look for people who can support it. And like Everton said at the beginning, it's not going to look the same for everybody, and that's okay. Some people are great at raising money. Fantastic. Put your efforts into that. Other people are great at giving of their time. But find something that's important to you, that gives you passion, that you can pour into it, and you will really enjoy the outcome.
It's true.
Well said. Well, I basically my message is more to my fellow academic colleagues, and I really would like to encourage them to volunteer. This will make a huge impact to the future of learning, to the way we educate the citizens. As I said earlier, education is a basic human right. Information especially about our natural resources, about Earth, is incredibly important for us to understand that we are tapping our natural resources at a much, much faster rate than nature can replace it. And that's a very simple concept, but most of our citizens, our voters, don't understand it. It's our job to reach to the broader population, and if you volunteer, if you help put these ideas in books, in the form that anyone can access, it will make a difference. You're right. You will not get promoted for this job, for your volunteering your time, but you are actually making a difference, making an impact.
Very well said. Thank you very much for your time and to helping us here. You are great examples for us, and I hope your example would help people to jump in and to volunteer and to do some work. You have fun. You're not going to make money, but money is not everything, right?
We don't need that.
You need personal rewards, and you feel good. It is very important. You enjoy what you're doing. Thank you, ladies. It was a pleasure having you here. It's very nice to meet you anytime. Whenever you wanna be interviewed, I'd love to have you back. Okay? Thank you very much again.
Thanks, Everton.
So we'll have some questions, and I'll start. I'd like to thank you again, Leanne and Ying, for participating. And I'll have some questions for you. First question that I have is, Leanne, what happened that you were in a place and then it changed all of a sudden?
That's the magic of modern video making.
Exactly. Very good, very good. So let's go to the point. We have some questions here. We have Michelle Aljar. How do we recruit more students to study groundwater and work in groundwater career? Wow. Ying, Any ideas on how do we recruit more students?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I'm the department associate chair, and for the past 3 years, my job has been reaching out to students, to high school students, and applying to college. I believe this generation wants to make an impact, wants to have a meaningful career, a rewarding career that pays well, but also make a real impact in the world. So studying hydrology, particularly groundwater hydrology, and I think it has a lot of potential. For them to develop that career, because our students really graduate and going into often the environmental sector, and as well as the government science agencies. And so, but again, how do we reach out to them? I think, again, this generation is guided by problems, right? Facing us is a big problem of water sustainability, particularly groundwater sustainability. We all often think that there's an endless supply of groundwater, and we also dump a lot of waste into it because out of sight, out of mind, and so it's something we don't see, something we don't really have a good handle on how fast it's replenished. So there's a lot to be done, a lot to be learned, and a lot to be done academically and as well as in the real world. So I think if the problems motivate our students, and then what we need to do is to, increase the literacy of what is the problem facing our society today. And I think the students will gravitate toward problems where they can actually make an impact. And I think studying groundwater is a great way to make an impact and make a living. I'm reaching out. I actually sent a brochure to local high schools, studying earth science, studying water cycle, because there's science need and there's society need. I don't know if I answered the question.
You have something to say, Leanne, about it?
Yeah, I agree with Ying, and starting younger, getting children involved and having more knowledge of what groundwater is and how they interact with it and what the limitations are in different communities is key. I know I've seen that science improving and groundwater being added to elementary and high school science programs in a way that it wasn't when I was going through school. I'm seeing it with my own children, but I think it's still a relatively small aspect of their science education, and anything that we can do to improve that will definitely help so that they're aware that this exists as a career possibility.
You know what? Leanne brought up a really good point, because starting at the high school, at an even younger age, we watch weather, right? There's a weather forecast on our TV. Everyone watches weather forecast. We don't have a hydrologic forecast, which matters more. How full, how empty is our rivers, and how full and empty are aquifers. And I think that's where we can actually reach more audience. Have a hydrologic forecast besides weather forecast.
I agree. Well, actually, if we think, that's the name that was suggested and decided, was voted for our event. It's called Making Groundwater Visible. So one important point is to make groundwater visible to more people. They don't realize that the water they're drinking comes from wells, comes from an aquifer. They don't even know what an aquifer is. We always have problems when we talk to journalists, for example. And you use the word aquifer, and many don't know exactly what we're talking about. So it's a work that we're trying to do, and we're starting, first by delivering books with the Groundwater Project, but we're aiming at a public at large, and how to make this, reach this public at large. It's not easy because we're very used to talk to hydrogeologists among ourselves. So if we reach a higher number of people, people will become aware of all the problems and the needs that we have for professionals, and the jobs will come because if people know how important it is, water, and how important it's going to be in the very near future, then the students will come. That's how I see things. But I agree with Leanne and Ian. Okay. I have some other question. Gustavo Alves da Silva from Brazil asks Leanne, Leanne, what if someone wants to join you in Vietnam?
That would be a wonderful thing. Anybody that's interested in doing volunteer work in Vietnam, you can look on the webpage for the Catalyst Foundation. It's catalystfoundation.org, and they have all kinds of...
Could you spell that?
CATALYS foundation.org.
Good, good, thank you. Elizabeth Wenke, she says, hi, great talks, very moving. Developing community monitoring system is an area that should be supported more. What do you think? That goes, I think, into your idea, Ying, right? The people concerned about how the hydrological forecast or something like that, right?
Yeah, and the community monitoring is really important. About 10 years ago, I started looking at across the world, what is the groundwater level? Because some of our vegetation on land actually depends on groundwater, and then so where the question is where it is shallow, where it is important to support the vegetation. And I started looking around for data. Groundwater is a resource. It's monitored in every functional government, by any functional government, but there's no data. They don't share the data. So I think monitoring a smartly designed monitoring system across the world, especially where resources are diminishing, especially we are going to depend more on the groundwater resources. And so there should be a smart network, and it's really regulated by scientists, but regulated by UN, at a higher level, but really supported by scientists, have a smart monitoring network. And then a open data sharing system. That is really important, so that we know where the problems are, for what reason, what are the possible solutions. I think that's a great question. We need to, it's something, we all see rivers, we can't see groundwater, so the monitoring becomes even more important. We poke a hole and we see this one spot, we don't know where else what's happening. And so having that kind of knowledge, a mental picture of where, how much you have, where are the groundwater stored, and how is it changing with the season and with the long-term trends, and how this data can be shared for all scientists and practitioners. I think that is really something we need to do. At the UN has a groundwater sharing project. The UNESCO has one. I forgot his name. He contacted me a few years ago. I submitted all the data I collected to him, but data sharing is not common. Even in India, the World Bank is funding all the groundwater monitoring. Yet this is an internationally funded project, but yet they don't share their data despite repeated requests. I call, I ask, I email, you cannot get the data, even though it should be really international data. They're funded by the World Bank. Yeah, good question. We've got a long way to go.
You want to add something, Leanne? Or?
I think Ying covered that perfectly.
Very good, very good. I agree with you. We have a position from Andy O'Reilly. As an university educator, I think Wikipedia, Khan Academy, and other free to the user resources are invaluable. The future of education, to be embraced by educators, not viewed as competitors. That's a good point. You want to say something? I completely agree. Actually, it's a complement, right? It's not a competition at all. It's something that educators can tap on because it's free on the internet, you can offer for students for free. It's not a competition at all. You can, because universities are there to help people think, not only give them information. It's another issue. That's what I think. Ying.
Well, I totally agree. I don't think it's a competition. And I tend to think that knowledge, particularly scientific knowledge, is a basic human right. And it doesn't matter if you can afford to go to college, you should have access to the best scientific information. To me, it's a human right. It's education, healthcare is a human right, and scientific knowledge is a human right. And so, that having said that, as you said, Everton, the university plays a different role. The university, really put people together and have an inspiring professor to put everything together, to put a story behind all the facts, and then to really consolidate the concepts, so bring out what is really important, how everything is connected at a higher level. A university serves function, but Khan Academy and the Wikipedia, SARA course, and then there's quite a few, and also Groundwater Project is serving a noble function in the society, so that every young person in any remote corner of the world with a cell phone, they can actually learn, they can actually become a scientist. I think that is fundamentally important for civilization.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I see it as a great equalizer, not as a competitor. It allows access without the restriction of cost, and provides a uniform platform to students who otherwise wouldn't have access to that level or that quality or that content. And that's a necessity if we want to see impoverished communities and nations be able to participate on a more equal footing.
Yes, it's true. That's true. And I see. I have my daughters. They're in university now, and they're studying, and they're always grabbing classes on YouTube from specific topics. To help them, and it's because they watch YouTube, and they speed up twice as so people are speaking in a weird language there because it's so fast, right?
Yeah.
But they use that quite well. They're so used to that, and it's a compliment. So I do believe that it's very welcome. I agree with you. That,
excuse me, the cat needs to go out. I have to open the door. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. I have a question here from Imran Aziz Tunio. Hi. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name correctly, of course, but it sounds like Imran. Hi, greetings from Pakistan. I suggest that make WhatsApp group of volunteers and experts for sharing advanced knowledge and opportunities of groundwater to interested to entire world to making groundwater visible. Well, I can start that. Well, Imran, that's something I've been discussing with people. We started as this you mentioned. I'm the president of the Groundwater Congress, the International Groundwater Congress. That would be last year. Pandemic didn't allow in Brazil. It's going to happen in this August in Brazil. And we created WhatsApp groups, and we have about 900 people participating. It's a lot. We have 10 different groups divided into specific themes. I think it's a good start. I have to point out though that North Americans don't use WhatsApp. It's something because they have that's interesting. You have texting for free. It's not free. You're paying for it on your phone bill. It comes with it. For us, it doesn't. You have to pay, for texting. So WhatsApp is the cheap option. We can send things for free, and it works, I believe. I have to tell you one thing, Imran. Give you some trouble since you asked. We need someone to coordinate the groups. Because if the group has, you know, the group has, I don't know, 20 is a lot already. But if you have 100, it's a mess. It's too many messages at the same time, and you need a coordinator so people can participate and they don't you know, send just messages that are useless. So it works. It needs a real boss, let's say, to make it organized. But it's fast and it is very useful because you can get, you know, the people giving you help on your hands at all times. I like the idea. What do you think, Leanne and Ying? Do you use texting quite often or not? No. You?
No, WhatsApp is not typically used in North America.
I know, but it is very. I know because everybody else that I talk to, they all have WhatsApp, and we can talk. That's very useful, very useful. And we can also make phone calls for free. That is quite compelling.
If you want to access young people in North America, it has to be Snapchat or Instagram.
Well, but it is, but this is those are different things. You cannot, because this you can make a call real time on WhatsApp for free. That's international phone calls. That's good for the internet. Well, if you have, so Imran, it is a good idea. It is a good idea. We don't have staff still on the groundwater project, but it'll be a good way to match people of the same interest on that. Let's talk. You have my contacts on the groundwater project. Let's see if we can start something, okay? And I'll give you some work. You're volunteering yourself. If you're not, I'm volunteering you for that job, okay? Thank you. There's another question here from Julia Costa from Brazil. Can I volunteer at the groundwater project even if I'm not a groundwater scientist? And I'd like to know the possibilities for volunteering there. Oh, well. You have ideas, Ian and Leanne, on how to volunteer? I have some ideas. But we still don't have enough people to organize. It's the same thing as the answer I gave to Imran. We need people for other tasks like marketing, helping with internet. That's very time consuming. We're doing a lot of work on the internet, and we need people to help us spread the news, participating on groups, and delivering messages to other associations. This is very time consuming. We don't have that all automatized. It needs people, and we don't have. So this is a very good way to help. We have other ways to help as well. It's like maybe if you know how to make nice drawings, for example, you can help us making good illustrations on groundwater. You have to understand a little bit of groundwater, but you have, you know, hydrogeologists to supervise. Usually hydrogeologists are not great artists to put together you know, compelling illustration, and you may help if you're an artist. You do a good work for science, bringing art, you know, but it has to be very strict to science. We have other ways of doing things. We can have, let's say, photographies of people related to groundwater that we can share, because it's very difficult to get situations that people can relate to groundwater. For example, you always have people in poor countries like Africa working with wells, or the situation that Leanne just showed, right? People don't relate if they only relate to surface water. So it'll be good for us if we can get ideas on that and we can distribute on our social media. This is very welcome. Short videos that are related to groundwater. You can produce very short videos, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. People don't watch things longer than that on the internet. It's very hard. They watch us here, but mostly are specialized people that are watching us. For the larger audience, we need, you know, short messages to the point and one message per video, very short. There are many opportunities, and more than that, you have nice brains, all of you. And when we have people thinking, because if you expect us to think much, you're wrong. We're not the good guys for thinking on everything. You have good brains, and you can bring us opportunities and ideas, just like Imran just did. Okay, so whatever you mentioned, we can evaluate, and just keep in mind that you have to put some work, and don't expect us to do, because we don't have too many of us to do the work. That's the problem. Okay, can you add something, Ying and Leanne, please?
I thought that was a great question. You shouldn't be constrained thinking that because you're not a scientist that you don't have a place in volunteering. There's always a place, because any of these programs are not just based on science. They need people who are public relations. They need people who can, like Everton said, describe things graphically and video wise. And if you can't do those types of artistic things, if you're a great organizer, there's a place for people to organize, and you don't have to understand the science. So if there's a desire, I think you bring your desire forward, and you look through your personal skill set and say, I think I could help in this way, and somebody will likely find a spot to be able to put that into use.
Exactly. Ying.
So I think then this really raised a question. We should have on the Groundwater Project website a volunteer needed post. Whoever, we are producing all these books and outreach material, and if there is a job that we need to be done, we're all volunteers, we all have other full-time job. So the more help we get, the better off we are. And so we should have a place, sort of a clearinghouse on the Groundwater Project webpage to say, we need a graphic, artist. We need a community organizer, and etc., so that people can actually meaningfully contribute.
I agree. Well, we actually built this thing on our website. Actually, Julia and Amanda put that together.
Okay, great, you're ahead.
There are some possibilities. They're limited. You still have some open possibilities to mention other skills that you have, because we only put things like editor or translator. We have I think we have 6 or 7, I don't remember, possibilities for volunteering, but it is not closed. You can offer some other things. Remember, we're hydrogeologists, most of us. We can think as hydrogeologists, and you think better than us in other areas, for sure. Just have to show us what you have to offer, and we'll be glad to admit. Really, that's our idea. We want to talk to people outside our hydrogeology community, and you are very welcome, because in my personal experience, I always tell a story that I learned from it. Once we hired these people to help us communicate with the big media, TV, big newspapers and things like that. And they did a good job, and they put me in contact with the editor of the national TV news, right? The major one, and which was a big deal. And I talked to this guy for about an hour about groundwater and groundwater contamination and things like that. And at the end, he says, Everton, I loved your stories, very good. But I talked to the homeowner there, and people they don't have a faint idea of what you're talking about. I don't know how to make this to make this easy for these people to tell. And at the end, nothing went on TV because I was so incompetent to let him know what was necessary to tell the wide audience. That was long ago. That's when I started studying communication and bringing, you know, languages to different people and designing different things. I've been working on that for, I don't know, 15 years, just because I felt so incompetent. I was so frustrated with that, you know? But still, we learn from others, because I make my living as a hydrogeologist. I still have to focus on hydrogeology most of the time. I cannot go too far. So I count on you, volunteers. If you're watching us, please help. You want to say something, Leanne and Ying?
Making things consumable is very key. You have to know your audience.
Yes. Okay, I think we're done with questions here. Would you like to make a final statement so we can wrap up our meeting here? That was lovely having you here again. Please make your final statement. Who goes first? Yin, please.
Well, I don't have much else to say, but except that, you know, there are many books waiting to be written. And if, you know, check out our website, and we need you know, authors. We need leading scientists who are willing to volunteer their time. This is all volunteering. This is something we do for the community, not for our. We are not paid to do this, and so we do need the younger people, and we have lots of great scientists, engineers who are right in the cutting edge of research and practice. And if you could lead a subject, and please volunteer. This is all about volunteering in the end. And you know, the Groundwater Project is very much about the series of books that are going to be the you know, the core product of the Groundwater Project. You know, textbooks for all levels, from, you know, middle school to high school to college, to graduate school, to professionals. So the books are our most important products, I would say, and so we need help.
Thank you. Leanne.
I guess the message I would leave is consider volunteering as a part of your lifestyle. I think it's really easy to get wrapped up in our own lives, and everybody leads incredibly busy lives these days. You're going to need to be purposeful to take that time and carve it out of your life, and say that you're going to do something with no gain for yourself out of it. But it is a worthwhile endeavor, and it's part of how we create a global community that can sustain ourselves and continue to move forward. So I just highly encourage you to find that thing that you're passionate about and carve out the time out of your life and contribute to your time and your efforts through volunteering.
Very good. I just like to add that when you do work like that, you work in just giving your time, the personal reward that you get, it's very important. You feel good, right? Just do it. And you know you feel good after that. You see a result that you produced for just because, you know, you wanted to help. This is an initiative that you should do. I would like to thank you, Leanne and Ying, for your time. I loved your presence here. It was very helpful, and I hope the audience likes that too. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.